It is my great pleasure to be here today with you, and I would like to thank you for this opportunity to share some thoughts with you and the panelists about two pillars of the Montenegrin foreign policy. One is European Union integration that you had pleasure of participating a couple of minutes ago, and the NATO integration process. I would like to use this opportunity to thank George Marshal European Centre for Security Studies, whose training was attended by numerous Montenegrins, and I'm glad that we are continuing this kind of cooperation. When I was preparing myself for this panel, I wanted really to put as brief as possible all the achievements that Montenegro and processes that Montenegro has gone through, in particular since regaining independence. And I did it, and I said in really the shortest possible way, and there are 10 pages of that. We are known, as you know, not being so modest, but I will follow that idea and start my brief introduction by saying that Montenegro, in my view, has achieved remarkable results since regaining independence on both tracks. But I will just go through some of them with regard to NATO integration processes. As you know, we started, Euro integration process is in our constitution. We have adopted by the government declaration before we regain independence. Then the first step was 6 months after referendum, we joined Partnership for Peace. 3 years after that, we opened the last stage of the process towards full integration in NATO, that is Membership Action Plan. And now we are in the end of the fourth round of. You know that the Membership Action Plan is the latest stage before a country join NATO, very demanding one. I had the pleasure, being at that time political director, of presenting two of them, second and the third one, in Brussels. And the fourth one is about to be finalized. Up to now, we have already implemented around 70% of all the obligations agreed and contained in, and we hope that we will be finalizing the rest in due time. As you know, there are 4 areas that we are particularly concentrated on, and that is strengthening of the rule of law. That is very much in accordance with the processes that are taking place within the European Union integration process, reforms in security area, in the area of defense, and strengthening public support for NATO membership. Well, if I decide really to go in all the details in all these 4 areas, it would definitely take much more time that I have allocated for this brief introduction, but I can briefly say that as far as the rule of law, as a chapeau for different reforms that are that are underway, they are very much compatible with all of those that are now within the process of European integration, in particular 23 and 24, that my colleague, I suppose, Alexander Andrea Perry, spoke in details this morning, with the new approach that we started with the most complicated, most demanding ones, and we followed that in the process of NATO integration. All the achievements, starting from last year, constitutions, adoption of different laws, prosecutorial council was the elected constitutional court was completed, unfortunately, a couple of days ago. The new Supreme state prosecutor has not been elected, and the process is going on. But all the agreed processes are underway, and we hope not that we hope, we will certainly continue doing our part of the job. The second area is reform in security. A security sector that is carried out in close cooperation with the NATO members and according to the communication that we have had with our partners. We will come to the conclusion that the standards that we are heading to are going to fulfill by the time needed. In that regard, there are different specific issues and achievements such as new military intelligence service and different laws adopted in the meantime that I don't really want to expand much on it. The third sector is defense, with that is well assessed as maybe the most successful one so far, with all the details, including the issue of budget. We all know that the final task or recommendation is 2% of our GDP. There are not too many NATO countries that are now capable or able to fulfill that task, but we are very much eager to, year by year, do that in a proper way and to allocate within the budget more resources for the modernization of our army. At the same time, we are implementing two specific programs, IPCP and PARP, and there are several other events that I think that are of particular importance. One of them is opening of the National Center for Naval Operation in Bar recently, and many others. The third one, or the fourth one, is public dialogue that me and the team that I have gathered last year, after being appointed national coordinator, is particularly devoted to, with opening new dialogue, introducing some kind of modified communication. Well, someone would call that strategy, someone recommendations. And the basic idea was and is that, having in mind that the NATO integration is the question of national interest, that everyone who wants to say something can be allowed to say. We've been in contact and in close cooperation, trying to establish stronger ties with all specific parts of our society, including NGOs. Let me tell you that since, let's say, last year, maybe there were 2 or 3 NGOs dealing specifically with NATO. Now we do have more than 10 of them dealing with specific aspects of this process. Then we've been in contact with all the media regardless of their own, well, whatever we call it, policy. We just wanted to invite them to report as objective as possible with regard to these important issues. We have already established contacts with the student organization, including this university, with different academia that exist in Montenegro, and business community. This morning I attended in Ramada Hotel an interesting conference that was devoted mostly on economic aspects of this process. Very interesting one with some professors, some different ideas, I would say. So we wanted, that certainly includes political side of our society, parliament, political parties, Prime Minister, who is at the same time President of the Council for Membership to NATO, organized a meeting with all the leaders of the coalition parties to make a kind of synergy with regard to specifically public opinion, that we still have different ideas, different understanding, different perceptions, different misunderstanding of this process. First results, I would say, are, well, again, don't want to be really modest, are good. That is between 12 and 15% of the support in our public since a year and a half now. It is approximately up to 46% of those who would vote in favor of NATO integration if it is put before us today. On the other side, as you know, we have two-third majority in our parliament. That discrepancy that exists between that kind of support and the public support needs to be filled up through all the activities. Public dialogue is one of them, or it is a form through which we need to exchange the arguments that I'm absolutely sure most of them, if not all, are on our side. Well, these are, besides one other part that are equally important if we want to be a part of NATO of the alliance. We need to be an active part, so we participate already in ninth rotation in Afghanistan. At the same time, we want to be responsible partner in broader international community. We are in small numbers, but we are there in Liberia, in the Gulf of Aden, in Cyprus. We might send some people to Mali just to show our responsibility with regard to the broader issues that are on the world agenda. So I will stop here, and I think this is 10 minutes, and I really try to be as brief as possible. Concluding with one question that has been often asked recently, and that is what Montenegro expects from the next summit. The task, as you know, we were not after any particular data on both tracks towards Brussels. We think that the direction is more important than the destination. Nobody knows, I dare to say, how the European Union will look like in 5 years from now. So the most important task for our society is to go and implement all the reforms and reach the standards that we need to reach. We hope that we will be able to do that. We hope that we will be able to say we are ready, and the final decision certainly does not depend only on us, but our part, we will be doing our utmost to fulfill and to say that we are ready for that. Whether the question of enlargement will be on the agenda of the next summit, well, I don't think that anybody would dare to say now yes or no. There are still discussions, including the recent developments in Europe, that needs to be taken into account post-Afghanistan, post-2014, and other issues will be definitely of primary importance for NATO, but we hope that every country will be judged by its own merits, and we are first in a row. If that happens, we would definitely be very, very satisfied with it. We are hopeful in that regard. Thank you very much.
Many thanks.